Miss Clare.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our GEG Sydney's Term 3 Google Meet this afternoon on bringing science inquiry to life with the power of Google Workspace. So we're very excited to share this with you, and the amazing Kelly, who is a science STEM extraordinaire, has very busily planned this really awesome session for you this afternoon. So we can't wait, to share this with you. Now, unfortunately, thank you. So we wanted to do our usual acknowledgement of country. So GEG Sydney acknowledges and pays respect to the Gadigal people, the traditional owners of the unceded lands upon which we meet today. We honour their connection to land, sea and community, and recognise the strength and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in the face of colonisation. So this is us. I'm Clare. If you're new, we've got Kelly and we've got Chris.
Oh, yeah.
We're all the members of GEG Sydney. It has been around for a long time, but it kind of went a bit dormant for a few years there. So we reignited it just over a year ago now, and we love to bring Google and all of the wonderful workspace tools for teachers and beyond, and ways for us to connect and share great things happening across our schools and in our systems. So, Chris,
we're gonna have to update Kelly's profile there.
Oh yeah. Well, Chris is
moved on.
Yeah, just leave it until something new.
Let me go back.
Yeah. But this event today is between ourselves and GEG Canberra, which Chris is also helping head at the moment while he's living there.
That's it. GEG Melbourne next.
Yeah, that's right. So today we've got three wonderful guest speakers that are also some STEM and science experts in their fields that are sharing with us today all the great ways that they've used Google Workspace and with their science and bringing that inquiry to life with their students. So we have Gabor, we have Anusha, and we have Rachel. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to hear your wonderful things that you're going to share. Then we'll have a bit of time for questions if we have, and Chris and I had a couple of things.
I think we're going to throw in a couple of things too.
Yeah, we're going to add things of how because I teach STEM as well, and it's one of my favourite things ever. I look forward to it every week.
Just before we dive in, you might see, if you're looking in the little squares of who's in the call today, you might see this handsome face there of John Millis. John and I got to meet each other in person after a couple of email exchanges. John is the principal of the Australian Independent School in Bali. I happened to be in Bali a couple of weeks ago, so John very kindly invited me to drop in, and we recorded this little welcome.
Hi, Google Educator Group, Sydney. I'm John Millis, the principal here at the Australian Independent School in Bali, Indonesia. I've had the pleasure of just taking Chris around our great campus here in Bali, and hopefully we'll see you online at a webinar soon.
And it's an amazing school, John. It was really great. Thanks for having me there. It was awesome to have a look around.
That's so
and it just goes to show that GEG Sydney does spread beyond the boundary of the Sydney Basin. All right, back to you, Claire.
Well, yeah, that's it. Let's get the show on the road. So let's hear from Gabor. Very welcome. Thank you.
Gabor, I'm not sure if you've got a slides moving thing, but just tell me when you want to change slides and I'll move it for you.
Sure, thank you. Do you actually mind if I share my screen? Because I've got a few things set up.
Sure, let me stop that and you take over.
All right. Just give me a moment. It just makes it a bit easier for me. My screen.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, and by the way, can I just publicly congratulate you again for being accepted into the Innovator Academy? And along with John, for that matter, too. John also got accepted in. So we got a couple of new up-and-coming innovators in the call today. So just want to throw that out.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Yes. Awesome. Excellent. So thank you, everyone, for having me here, and welcome to Hump Week. We're halfway through the term. You're probably as exhausted as I am, but hopefully I can share a few strategies with you here that can help you get through the next couple of weeks and even play around with something cool. And there's lots of cool things to play around with on the Google tools that I've been testing out over the last few weeks. So a bit about myself. I'm a Year 5 teacher at Canberra Girls Grammar School, and we are an international baccalaureate or an IB school. So we run something called the Primary Years Program. For those of you who aren't familiar, it runs from kindergarten to Year 5 or Year 6. In our school, it runs till Year 5, and it's an inquiry-based way of learning. And today I would like to, and it fits really well into the topic, which is science inquiry using Google tools. So I would like to show you a couple of ways that me and my team have been using Google tools this term in our units of inquiry. So rather than having standalone science units in the International Baccalaureate system from K to 6, we actually have units of inquiry. So transdisciplinary themes. So the themes you can see there in that circle, they're called who we are, where we are in place and time, which is history and geography, how we express ourselves, how the world works, which is mostly science, how we organize ourselves and sharing the planet. That being said, science can be embedded into each and every one of those transdisciplinary themes. So the first unit I want to share with you is how we organize ourselves. I've put our science descriptors up there. So this unit was about natural disasters and about how the Earth undergoes continuous change and how communities can prepare, adapt, and continue to innovate to prepare for these natural disasters. And within that, of course, lies the stewardship of our environments as well. So the main thing we were looking at was natural disasters, erosion, and where scientific knowledge sits within all that. And actually a shout out to Chris. Thanks, Chris, because I got this idea from you. Just goes to show how my best ideas actually come from other people and not myself. So I just take what I can, I run with it, and I see what happens. And I know that the worst case scenario is it's still an awesome idea because the person I got it from is great. So the first thing I want to share with you is our provocation. So each of our units of inquiry has a provocation to get students thinking deeply about this topic. So the central idea here, as I said before, was how the Earth undergoes continuous change. We chose earthquakes, and because it's IB, we have to make sure that it's current and relevant. So what I decided to do was to build a character and a persona for someone who existed, a real person that existed during the Venezuela earthquakes in June this year. And we thought this would be a great way to get students thinking about all the components of a natural disaster, the science behind it, the community response in the aftermaths, and everything else that's associated with it. So the first thing is adopting roles. So students step into someone else's shoes to deepen engagement with inquiry questions. So we thought, how could we do that? Well, let's create a character. We have to build empathy. It's not enough to just create a character. They have to embrace the students' questions and drive further questioning and therefore curiosity about this particular topic. And the students have to be able to lead the investigation. And in this case, we wanted them to be able to do it in real time. So I'll tell you about the mechanics behind that in a moment. So the first thing the students did was a gallery walk. So this was based off the presentation we did in Google Slides. We printed off different images of the Venezuelan earthquake with some inquiry-based questions that they had to walk around the undercroft and answer each of those questions. You can see the image there in groups. And then came the component of the actual questioning. So using Gemini Notebook, which I still have to get used to because I almost always stumble and say Notebook LM, but in Gemini Notebook, you're able, as you mostly know, to create this walled garden, which makes sure that the responses to your inquiry questions are only drawn from the resources you provide. Now, we chose 8 age-appropriate and vetted sources to be a part of this notebook. And that wasn't the end, because we also decided to spice things up a bit and make it even more authentic. And I used this software called 11 Labs, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And it's excellent for speech to text, to lend authentic voice to a particular character. Now, you can, of course, put any bit of text in there, but what's amazing about 11 Labs is it actually actively interprets the emotional context of the text you input. So let me show you that. So this was our notebook, and the sources we used were all child-friendly sources. So being Year 5 students, we didn't want to put anything too traumatic in there. A lot of BTN, ABC news sites, facts that I found, and I just put into a Google Doc. And there were 8 sources altogether, and we created this chat. So the character was of Elena, a primary school teacher from La Guaira province in Venezuela, who's a real person, but of course in a fictional context for us. And the students were able to ask any question, and we put this up on the board, and we typed in their question, and Elena, sorry, generated a response. So for example, were you hurt or impacted by the earthquake? And then Elena would give a response. Now, the students would then, another teacher helped me lead the questioning. And so while they were generating the next question, I would copy the text that Elena used. So in this case, I think this is the one I used for the example. How long did the earthquake go for and what did you do to survive? So I would copy this text, and then I would input it into 11 Labs here. And you can choose different types of voices. And I would love to show this to you, but I only have 10 to 12 minutes. So I'll just show you the one I have. I chose what is called a warm Latin voice, the name of Lady Patty. And Lady Patty just blew the kids away, because not only did she answer their questions in real time, but she answered it as though someone would be on the phone with them, with the emotion that is used by someone who is speaking real time. So I'll just show you what it sounds like.
Gabor, I think we're not getting the audio on that. I think because it only really works with audio if you're sharing just the tab, unfortunately, not the whole screen.
Oh, that's all right. It's a Latina accent, and it makes it the good thing about 11 Labs and Studio 2.0 and even Studio 3 is that it adds emotion. Unfortunately, I'm sorry I can't show you that, but what it does is it allows us to gather the students' responses. We paste it into the text-to-speech, and then it says it like a real person. And so the students found that amazing, that they were almost talking back and forth with a real person. Now, of course, they knew that it wasn't a real person in this case, but it added to the authenticity of the activity, and it just helps with engagement. So they really, really found that exciting and motivating. And we only planned to do it for 25 minutes, and the questioning actually went on for 55. So they couldn't get enough of Eleanor. I did want to share with you the prompt I used to make it. So I used a custom prompt and shorter responses for the sake of time and the students that we had. And Gemini actually helped me come up with these prompts. So I had the role and persona defined, so a 32-year-old primary teacher in this province. I also specified which particular earthquake it was, who the students are, what their ages are, which school they're talking to. And then most importantly, the tone and style. So first person, your tone should be gentle, honest, and hopeful, clear language, and of course, making sure that everything is limited to 3 or 4 sentences. Core disaster data was the strict grounding for this persona or character. And then, of course, very important when you're working, especially with primary school students, is safeguards and restrictions, making sure that you strictly use textual evidence and limit what kind of questions you respond to. And if it's not age appropriate, then just gently redirect them back towards how the community is rebuilding or the science behind it. So that was the prompt that I used, and I'm more than happy to send that to anyone who's interested. And the questioning took place here in Gemini Notebook, and then we generated the audio through 11 Labs. Apologies, I can't play that for you. The next thing I wanted to show you was going further with our natural disasters unit was bushfires. And this was a simulation I actually threw together in 5 minutes using Gemini. And it was something that I wanted the students to be able to play around with. We don't always want a worksheet. We don't always want an elaborate activity. Sometimes all they need is to just play around with a few parameters. So I used Gemini Chat to build this interactive simulation. The students could then play around with the parameters. We talked about the fire triangle, fuel, heat, and oxygen. The different things that influence the spread of fire. So the fuel load, how dry the grass is, the slope angle, and the thickness of the leaf litter. And the students could play, and we looked at both managed and unmanaged forests. And so the students could play around with the different parameters, and then spark would be start. And then I'll show you in a moment what it looks like. It gives you a scenario for how quickly an unmanaged forest burnt and a managed forest, so somewhere where there's been backburning or indigenous fire stick farming. The students can then use this to make predictions, test their assumptions, and evaluate their results. So it's fantastic for inquiry, and you can set that up in Google Classroom. So this is how I built it. I asked Gemini to create a bushfire simulation. As you can see, it didn't quite understand. So I said, can you make this interactive? Of course it can. So then it spits out the code for it, and you can change any parameter you want within this code. I didn't have much time, and all I asked it to do once I pasted it into my browser was to change the colors, make it easier to see. And the result was this. So the students were able to play around with how dry the grass was, how thick the leaf litter was, the wind speed. It might be a windy day, but it mightn't be much of a slope. And then they could see how quickly a managed versus an unmanaged forest fire burns. And you could move the parameters any particular way that you want. And you could see, of course, that that affects the wind speed, the slope angle, and everything else would affect the speed of that fire. And you can adjust these to whatever you like. So it was great for the students to play around with that. So a very simple simulation that you can do. You can do that for states of matter, particles, atoms, anything like that very easily. And the last thing I wanted to show you, if I start, do I have a bit of time still, Chris?
Can we do 1 minute?
Yep, 1 minute. Done. So this was a unit of how the world works. So light and matter, light and state of matter. And at the end of the unit, I got the students to revise with Gemini Notebook. So I used the Google Slides for the source, and I asked Gemini Notebook to create flashcards simply based on the teaching slides that we used for that unit. And then we went through it as a class, and the students love it because it's very easy. What is matter? We go through all the questions. What's something that can be considered matter? And then when you want to see the answer, you just flip it, and then you tally the results. And you can do that individually or as a class. Another great tool to either use as a summative task or just as a formative task to see whether the students are on track. How'd I go with that minute?
I love it. I love it. You said, what is
Thank you
matter?
very
And I
much.
heard it went, what does matter with you? That was great. That was awesome. There's so many good ideas there. And it's interesting you did the simulation thing. The thing I want to share towards the end is also a simulation thing. So our minds are thinking alike, I think. Let's carry on. Thank you very much, Gabor.
Thank you.
And so up next we have Anusha.
Hi, thanks.
Would you like to share your screen, or do you want to just go from here?
Yeah, I'd like to share my screen.
Okay, just
Yeah.
go right ahead.
Oh, give me a second, see if I can make this work. Oh, good Lord. I'm having some hassles here. You might have to, let's have a quick look. Yeah, I think I'm going to just ask you to go ahead with it. Are you?
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yep, no worries.
And maybe just click when I ask you to. So yeah, Kiora from New Zealand. I'm at Papakura High School, Director of STEAM, It's our first year running a STEAM program, which is really, really ambitious in a school like ours. We are formally decile 1A, which is amongst the lowest socioeconomic decile. So whatever engages our kids is fabulous. And this program, although it's in its first year, really, really, really working well. Going to show you why. Can you change the slide, Chris?
I can, and I'm just putting a timer up as well. I forgot to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. Or just for keep us on track. There we go.
All right, so if you look at this, clearly the titles show you they are not your ordinary maths lesson. Steaming it up does mean looking at contexts very, very differently. And on the next slide, when I get there, I'm going to show you how encapsulated my thought processes, which are kind of chaotic, kind of weird, but get me some fascinating results. All of these I've done. I put in the link to only one because they're pretty extensive. However, in the middle of that screen is a link to my STEAM site. So if you're interested in any of these, click the link and you can have access to the kind of stuff I've done with my kids. They're not just theoretical. I've tried them. They work. They're fabulous. And best engagement is from the 2 STEAM classes, lowest incident of pastoral issues, which in a school like ours is really, really important. Highest engagement, highest attendance. So I reckon it's working because it is not boring. I personally detest textbooks. I detest worksheets, hate them with a passion because I've taught maths and I've taught senior maths for a long, long time. And when you're in the senior school, you kind of march the drum of the exams. It influences a lot of what you do. But junior school, wow, you can just unleash. So if you flick to the next slide, I'll show you what I've done or how I tried to. So for STEAM teachers, none of them has ever taught a STEAM subject, has taught STEAM before. So for yesterday's meeting, I kind of unpacked my thought processes. I think it terrified them a bit. I hope they come back next week. But basically, I start with any kind of wonderful idea, and there's so much out there. I'm fascinated by lots of things. Oh, zombies, the lost cities, the Minion movies, engineering, space. But if it gets my attention, there's a good chance there's good math in it and that the kids are going to buy in. Then, of course, the academic rabbit hole, I've got to back it up with authentic maths. I look for real data, patterns, measurement, etc. And then the really fun part that I love is creating a digital playground. For the most part, guys, I use slides because slides have endless possibilities. And they packed, as you'll see when I show you my measurement unit, they packed with so much of stuff that it becomes a discovery for the kids. So although it looks really pretty and it's awful fun, there's a lot of important stuff baked in there. Learning intentions, success criteria, the connections to the New Zealand curriculum, and very purposeful maths tasks. But the goal is never to create a digital worksheet. I really want every lesson to be an experience that the kids love and they explore and learn from. Could you flick to the next slide, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So up the top is all the Google stuff that I use. Obviously not all of them in every lesson, but pretty much a whole lot of things that make the lesson really, really investigative and interesting. And I know because year 9s here are not easy to control. They're not the easiest to marshal in, but having a class sit and engage with your work for 60 minutes is something that really, really shows me this is working. It can engage. And when we recruited our STEAM kids, we did not recruit on academic. We recruited purely on engagement. And if there was a geekometer, that would have been it. So academics had nothing to do with it. So I can make 60 very, very different kiddies fascinated by these topics. I think I'm getting there. So within that mix of the digital playground, I use a lesson structure called the 7 C's. And if anybody wants to know more about it, I've got like lots of info, but I love me some alliteration. So I've got curiosity, connect, challenge, etc. Each of these is part of my lesson structure. They're not necessarily in every lesson. So my slide deck is now a digital sandbox. They might discover a hidden hyperlink inside of an image. They might jump onto Google Earth to find a real location, analyze data in sheets. collect responses through forms. The possibilities are endless, all hidden in your slides. Then, of course, to refine the process, man, Gemini gems, heaven sent. Because I often think that things are fabulous, but until I have evaluated them according to a gem that has been front-loaded with the frameworks I work with. So I work with the Institute of STEAM and Arts Integration. I had to use an American framework because New Zealand doesn't have a fully loaded STEAM curriculum. So with the front loading of the gems, with properly defined academic frameworks, I can always evaluate any lesson that I think is wonderful. And when it comes up with just proficient or sometimes developing, I know I can do better. So before I unleash it on the kids, no matter how pretty or fascinating, I put it into a gem just to make sure if there's any refinement or polishing, I can do it and crank up those engagement levels. I think I've got 2 slides left. I think I'm all right for time. Could I go to, next slide? Okay, so this is a unit that my kids loved. Lost Cities. It's something I've been obsessed with since I've been a kid. So measure, map, decode, discover is what they've done in there. Do you reckon you can click that link, Chris, just to...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's embedded in Lost City. It doesn't matter if you can't. It's 100. Okay.
Instead, there you go.
All right. Look, it's 100 slides long, guys. So the way to chunk it out is every time there is, I've got 6 challenges and 7 quests. I put each of them individually up on Classroom. So the kids are not overwhelmed with information. We're working through a massive slide set, but 1 challenge or 1 quest at a time, and they seem to be loving it. So it's far too much to go through in the time we've got available, but I'll just talk you through it. And of course, that slide's available. So the kinds of things I've done, one of the quests was to create, to gamify measurement and geometry, which is the strand this belongs to, and using a Gemini game arcade to do that. I've also used a Gemini storybook to create kid-friendly books, which I host on my Google site. So it's the prompts I created for the kids. Yeah, you can see there's heaps, right? So chunked out into manageable bits on Classroom, and the Gemini storybooks were a huge hit because we're getting them published, and they turn out as ebooks and audiobooks, which the kids loved. Each of them had to take a segment of the topic with a carefully curated prompt and create a really amazing storybook. They were all hosted on our site. And of course, we're publishing them. Another amazing thing we did was create comic strips. We have, oh my goodness, the list is endless. You can have a deep dive into it if you're so inclined. Love doing it, still working on it. Our Thursdays are now Tech Thursdays, where we do a tech part of that work. So on this Thursday, we're building the game using Gemini. The advantage of having these all available up on the website, the entire unit, kids can dip in and out of it as they feel. So I've got kids who've already created their games, and I've got kids that are on other kinds of challenges, but it's been an amazing journey. Traditionally, I found measurement and geometry really, really hard to teach. This way, I'm unpacking them in a really fun way. So yeah, if you need to, the link's up there. It's available for, I think I've set it so everybody can view.
Is that the Mission City link?
The actual mission thingy, yeah. And on my first slide, inside of that central box is a link to my actual website, which has got heaps more ideas.
Which is this.
And on the first slide, my actual Steam site. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So last slide, guys. Almost done.
Yeah. Hang on. Let me, things open now.
There's a lot packed in there. Yeah.
Oh, last slide. This one.
Yeah, and the one on
that tab. There you go. That one.
That's it. So coming soon. I'm still got a little bit of geometry and measurement to get through. Want to do justice to it in the time I've got left this term. Next term, we start the number strand, which is fascinating stuff. Fractions, decimals, percentages. I refuse to teach it in that way. So some of the things I've been working on other topics up there. And coming from the kids, things that they're interested in, things that they've heard of, they want to know more about. So I'm looking forward to developing those topics. And yeah, loving it, loving the journey. It's been amazing. And seeing engagement in such a wide cross-section of kids has been absolutely fabulous. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for having me. And yep, all the links are up there if you would like to look at them. And if you want to contact me, yeah.
Thanks,
I'm
Anusha.
up on LinkedIn. Yep.
Thank you. And of course, we're going to make all the slides and everything available at the end.
Yeah.
Of this. You'll find it all on the GG Sydney website, ggsydney.com. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. What you're doing reminds me a lot of I have a friend called Lisa Highfill, and she does a thing called
Hyperdocs.
Hyperdocs. Yeah, which is I think
I used to love
if you don't know Lisa, look her up online. Lisa
Yeah.
Highfill, Hyperdocs, because I think you and her are sharing a lot of the same brainwave energy there.
Definitely. Agree.
Awesome. Thank you again for sharing. I think Claire, you can introduce Rachel.
Oh, with pleasure. So very happy to have my dear friend Rachel and my fellow podcast buddy for Take It Up a Notch. Side plug there. So today, Rach is a STEM science wizard, and I have had the very privilege of working with her. We work together in head office at CSPD, and I got to see this great mind in action. I even heard her say once, "I'm a genius," when she got an Autobot to create a sundial. It was the best thing ever. So I can't wait to hear what Rach. We actually just did an episode on our podcast about what Rach is sharing today, and it's brilliant. So take it away, Rach.
Oh, thank you, Claire. And I can see that Kelly's commenting in the comments there too, because I've also known Kelly for probably more than half our lives, I think, Kelly, because we grew up in the same street. So very
It
small
was
world.
crazy when you realised that the connection.
I'm happy to not share my screen because I've only got 3 slides. If Chris or whoever's sharing is happy just
Sure.
to click through.
Sure, no worries.
Yep. So I've got a Year 6 class and I work in the Hawkesbury region of New South Wales. So my school is really close to the wonderful Hawkesbury River. And I'm a really firm believer in using community resources to enrich the learning of my kids. And so here they are. You can see a few little pictures on the side there. We traipsed down to the river to study our driving question, which was, is the Hawkesbury River a sustainable ecosystem? So we're looking here at learning in science. As you can imagine, it was a whole 10 weeks worth of work, and we were covering lots and lots of different outcomes, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm not going to go into all of those things, but I will just talk about the way that Google tools were able to enrich the learning for our kids. So I've done a bit of like an outline here. This was actually the outline from my unit plan, and it had all of the content descriptors, and I've just covered them over with Google stuff so you can see how the Google tools have aligned with the different syllabus outcomes. So if I just started at the top, we used lots of Google Earth satellite data. But one of the things that kids had to look at was changes over time in the river and different ecosystems. Even just being able to locate those things on a map, all of those general geography skills that kids would need to have, even though it was a science unit. We used Google Earth for that a lot. Now, the next one along is drones, obviously not a Google tool. So if you want to learn more about how we use drones, listen to the Take It Up a Notch podcast, because we talk about it a lot there. Then the Google vids was the next one. So part of the learning, the kids were down at the river, they're taking data, they're collecting, they were talking to community. Like you can see the guy in the high vis there, he's our local community ranger, and he helped the kids, Landcare were helping. And we collated all of that learning basically into a Google Doc. So they had like a fieldwork journal, and it linked in a little bit with digital transcription, those outcomes in English, because a lot of them didn't know about formatting a page, didn't know about, like, they could change fonts and things. But, the day I was like, oh, you can change your background, I was like, oh, my Lord. So lots of really excited kids just with some of those basic Google Docs, like formatting options. So they put all of their learning into that Google Doc. We had a bit of a field report. of course, Google Classroom was super helpful in terms of pushing out resources. They took that learning and they took it to Google Vids. So the aim was then to create something that was an invention that would support the Hawkesbury River being more sustainable. And what they were going to do is take that idea to a science competition. So they had to build prototypes and, be able to explain their thinking around these particular ideas that would support our river. And we did that through Google Vids. And it was very guided, I suppose, because they'd not used the platform before. And so, I had my modeled one going up there and, a few templates that they could use so that it just helped to, because like all of us, we're so time poor. I found time was my enemy in this unit because there was so much to get through. But anyway, they all did it. They all got a Google Vid made of varying quality in terms of content, but they all got one made. And that is where the most exciting thing that I'm going to share with you today comes in. I don't know if anyone's done it before, but I'm so proud of myself for doing it because I was really impressed with how it went. They had made cardboard prototypes. So I might get you to flick over to the next slide there, Chris. And you can see them here. So they had made in class classic design and make. Everyone's done it. And then I took their photos, and at first I was using Google Vids for this, but it was a bit limiting. So then I moved into Google Flow to bring their cardboard creations to life using AI. And so you can see a few examples there. I didn't even try too hard. I used really basic prompts. This is a cardboard prototype. Can you please, I explained in their words from their project what the prototype was meant to do. And then, then we have these. If I had more time and I was doing it again, I would really like the kids to sit next to me because my kids don't have access to these tools being in primary school. But I would like them to sit next to me and us be able to work through it together so that the AI generated video exactly matches what the kids were doing. But again, time was our enemy and we had a deadline for this science competition. So it was me at home doing a couple each day before my credits ran out. So Google Flow, I don't know, has anyone used it? Maybe send up a little emoji going woohoo or something. If anyone's, there we go. John might have, Kelly's not sure. I only came across Google Flow because I wasn't happy with how Vids, I think it was limited to a really short little snippet. I was putting their photos in and then asking it to animate and turn it into a video, but it was really short and it just wasn't quite what I needed. It might have been about 8 seconds. And so I think I asked Gemini, what else could I use? And it suggested Google Flow. And Google Flow is a cinematic and multimedia creation tool. From what I can gather, it's an experimental app in beta and it's running out of Google Labs. And it was fantastic. It just made such a beautiful, it was exactly what the kids had said in little videos. And so they are still quite short because I had a few to do and not many credits. But if you flip over to the next slide, Chris, you'll be able to see these inventions in action. Hopefully it works. It's a YouTube link, so it should play.
Right, let me go to this tab. There we go.
I whipped this up really fast. It's super dodgy. Now, there's obvious gaps here. So
it keeps predators away.
Again, it needs some refinement in the prompt.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, inspired by the cages on the sides of bins for cans.
I want one of those.
Now, this is an actual Google Vids one. This was one of the first ones that I did. See how they're just that bit short? And this one is fantastic. I'll have to explain what it's doing. Platypus are actually bioluminescent, and they only discovered it during COVID in a museum, funnily enough. And so that particular design is a drone that has a UV light underneath that will shine down. And then when it sees a platypus, it'll send its location data back so that they can track where platypus are in the river. So the kids, they did all the hard work in terms of thinking of the ideas, but it certainly was a guided inquiry process in terms of getting them to that point. But out of all of that, I am so impressed with bringing cardboard creations to life, and I don't think I'll ever do a design and make again that doesn't have that as part of it. So I hope that you all get to enjoy that too.
It's awesome. Thanks, Rach. Is there more?
That's it.
I want more.
That's it. Leave them wanting more, Chris. That's the key.
Well, I always knew Australia had weird animals, but I didn't know we had glow-in-the-dark animals. That's amazing.
No, it was literally the guards in the museum were looking for COVID germs, and when they shone their light, they realised that that's what the fur of the platypus did.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
There's an EP Science News lesson on it if you've got education perfect. Cheeky X plug.
Thanks, Rach. That's amazing. And in case Claire and Rachel are not going to plug their podcast again, I will. A great podcast called Tech It Up a Notch, and you'll probably find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Spotify link is in the chat.
Oh, thanks, Kelly.
So we mainly talk about, like, not only did Rach do all of this, then she got kids to program drones to simulate like going over the river and putting this into action. Like, she's just, so that we mainly talk about the drones.
Yeah, we do. But
well, thank you for sharing. Now, Claire and I have a couple of quick things to share, so we're going to be brief.
Yes.
Off you go, Claire.
So very quickly, I just wanted to share, similar to how Rach explained she used Google Vids in Google Classroom. I taught Year 4 STEM last term, and I wanted to show them how that, I set up a template for them within Google Classroom as an assignment, and I wanted them to share their knowledge of the relationship between the Earth and the Sun using Google Vids. So something different as a way to share their learning with me. So I spent a couple of lessons showing them how to use Vids, and then I set up, similar to what Rach did, a Google Doc with where they had to put what they wanted to include in the video, the script, and I got them to actually explain, record their voice rather than the video of themselves. And they made like a little mini documentary. I also did it at a different level with Year 11 for history, which was a different thing. But so yeah, that was just that. And then there was a little quick video of it. Next slide. That was just how you set it up. So we so we use Seesaw as a way. Oh, last slide. Backward. Okay. So we're going to go backwards. Sorry, Chris.
Oh, go backwards. Sorry. I can't go backwards. Sorry. Oh, there we go. That one?
Yes. So we use Seesaw for students to share their learning at my school. So all the students submitted, I set up a Seesaw activity where they could share the link for their video, or they exported it actually as an MP4, and then they put it on. And I just had one little quick one just to show you what it looked like.
So press this?
Yeah.
I'm following instructions very carefully now.
So that's all of their videos that they uploaded. And then I just had one. So you can. So what they really enjoyed was, the using video rather than just pictures.
Yeah.
Because I found a lot of them were trying to do it like a PowerPoint. They're putting heaps of text into it. And I said, it's a video, guys. So use text on it. Just use your video, use your voice like you're doing a documentary. So no, that was really cool. So, and they weren't very long, but it did the job. And one other really quick thing, I was actually doing another plug for Kelly. Her wonderful book that she put out. Okay. You can mute it.
Mute it. I don't have a mute button on this.
And it's basically just a lesson on how to create a hologram. And I was really inspired by that. I wanted to try it with my students. And so we did energy in term 4 last year in Year 4 science. And so I followed her. She even had a worksheet of the template, and like I bought the overhead kind of paper from of all the transparent plastic from Officeworks, and then the students folded it. We made our own video actually using Canva and duplicated it 4 times to make a hologram of themselves. But to try it first, we just found hologram videos on YouTube, put the on top, and it projected it. The only thing was during the day in a classroom that doesn't have blinds was not easy. So we had to, kids are literally hiding under desks and with their jackets over their chairs just to get a bit of darkness so they could see the hologram. But it was so much fun, and I just did like a double science lesson that week, and they just loved it. So yes, and that was from Kelly's book. So yeah, and I was very excited. I was seeing her videos and when I was doing it last year.
You're good. That's it. Oh, okay. All right. I'm just going to throw a quick thing in here, just science related. I was teaching some year 11 and 12 students recently the ACT pre-learner license course. It used to be called Road Ready, and it's about preparing students to get their license. And as I was going through the notes that are officially provided by the ACT government, I came across this slide here, which talks about vehicles travelling at different speeds and when the brakes come on and how long it takes to dissipate that speed and so on. And my first thought was, wouldn't this be nice if it was interactive braking distance simulator? So I had the same sort of thought that I think, Gabor, you were talking about before, where like if you see something, you think, wouldn't it be nice if this was interactive? We've all got the tools to make it interactive now. So what I did was put in a prompt, and I actually used AI Studio because I'm a big fan of AI Studio. And so in less than 30 minutes, probably less than that actually, I created this simulation tool which can simulate all different speeds and conditions, and it takes into account things like the speed of the vehicle, what the road condition is, what type of vehicle it is, what's the driver reaction time. And just like the example you saw from Gabor before, you can go in and play around with it. I've actually got a link to it here. I'll just really quickly just click that link. You'll have the slides for this, so if you want to go and have a play with this, you can. It looks like this. So the students could come in here and say, okay, look, I think I'm a better than normal driver, so I think I've got a very attentive reaction speed, so they can change their reaction speed. Maybe they're driving a hatchback or an SUV or a sedan, they can play around with those, whether they're on dry asphalt or wet concrete, or they can even play around with the coefficient. They can decide how far they are from the obstacle, and you can see the red line moving there is the distance from these cars. And there's some presets there as well, so you can preset it for different things. But if I go for like suburban speeds and then hit this brake button up here, you can see that it'll run the simulation. It'll tell you which cars stopped in time and which cars crashed into the barrier, right? So you can actually see, and it'll tell you what speed they were going when they crashed into the barrier, which is kind of fascinating. You can see that at 110 kilometers an hour, if you slam the brakes on, you'll still be doing 91.3 when you hit the object at suburban conditions. So there's that, and if you scroll down a bit before, it draws you the graphs, and you can move along there. It'll simulate all the different speeds, tell you when you actually hit, when you stop, and then further down the bottom there, it's giving you a whole bunch of diagnostics into how much kinetic energy was left when you hit the object, what the equivalent fall distance is, like falling off a building, like trying to put it into terms maybe that are easy to understand. You know, hitting an object at 100 kilometers an hour is like falling off an 8-story building. So there's a whole bunch of data in there, and you can have a bit of a play with that. What I think is more important though, and go back to here, is how did that get made? Because like this was the prompt I started with. Create a graph that models the effects of residual braking at various speeds, that shows a flat line to represent driver time. Once the brakes are applied, it shows a parabolic fall off. To get to 0, include the option to change the reaction time and so on. So that was the original prompt. And the point I want to make more than anything else is, like, if you just put a prompt in and you get a result, the job's not done yet, because the next thing I did was go back and say, okay, the floating tooltip that shows that is quite intrusive. Put it next to the graph instead. It did that. And then I said, well, that doesn't really work as I need it to scroll too much. Can you think of a better UI for this? And so on and so on. And these are all the different prompts that I followed up with and followed up with and followed up with in order to get to the final result of the tool that I actually wanted. And I think the really important lesson for that is that, you know, I think a lot of times, especially students and even a lot of teachers, a lot of people think that you put the prompt in, you get the result and job done. And it's really not. You just got to keep refining and refining and refining and refining and engaging in the conversation with the AI until you get exactly what you want. And then that's it there. So if you want to play around with this sort of stuff, I really like AI Studio. I know you can do a lot of this stuff in Gemini with canvas mode turned on, but I find it's great for stuff that's relatively simple. But if I want to get into something that's really getting into the weeds a bit, AI Studio is awesome. aistudio.google.com gets you started. There's a prompt box there. Just describe what it is you want. And once it makes something for you, just now tell it everything that's wrong with it and everything you need changed. I love the fact that with AI Studio, you can publish directly to Google Cloud. It's like a one-button press publication to Google Cloud. There is a small cost involved with that, but I think my monthly bill for Google Cloud is like 6 cents. Like it's nothing. Like it's so yeah. If you want to publish, super easy to do that. So that's my thing. But the other thing, just listening to people talk today, it just reminded me of something that I don't know if you're aware of. If you're a science or maths teacher. There's an amazing band called OK Go, and they did a little collaboration with Google a couple of years ago to create this thing called the OK Go Sandbox. And I've actually got it open here in another tab. Let me go there. So the OK Go Sandbox takes the songs and the video clips that the band makes, which are all about you know, these amazing machines, or like this clip here for the song called One Moment. They recorded the video clip in 4 seconds because there was a whole bunch of stuff exploding, and then they slowed the video down so it lasted for the 3 minutes of the song. But there's a whole bunch of physics and calculations and spreadsheet math behind the scenes, and so you can go into any of these buttons and click on the view lessons, and actually all the templates and lesson plans are in there for you if you want to sort of create lessons around some of these magic moments that they do. So I had forgotten about that until you guys were talking, and I just added it in. And then the other thing I just remembered that just sort of came out, I saw last week, and Anusha, you made me think of this when you were talking about some of the stuff that you're doing. Eddie Wu, who many of you probably know from WooTube, and Eddie was a guest speaker at our last Energizer event, one of our last Energizer events for the Google community. Eddie's just done a collaboration with the Australian National Gallery here in Canberra, looking at the mathematics behind the artworks. And you can see him standing there in front of blue poles, which I heard this morning is going to go over to Western Australia for the first time ever. They're moving it over there for a display. But Eddie does this whole analysis of the mathematics behind things like abstract art. And so if you just Google Eddie Wu, Australian National Gallery, you'll find this article, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there, which got me then thinking, if I went to Eddie Wu's YouTube page and I looked in his playlist collection, there's actually a whole playlist there called Mathematics of the Sydney Opera House. So like, I think, Anusha, was you that said earlier, like, you know, if you can find something interesting, cool, or amazing, there's usually good maths or science inside it. And I think
Maths is everywhere.
really, yeah, 100%. So there's a couple of little examples that just came to mind while you guys were talking. Let me go back to the slides because I'm way off track. Okay. Claire or Kelly, I'm going to throw back to you guys for anyone who has any questions before we wrap it up.
I'll let Kelly wrap it up if you like, Kel.
Cool. Does anybody have any questions? I noticed there were a few questions for the presenters as we were going that I think most got answered. So anything anybody wants to contribute, just unmute and share really quickly.
I'm always keen to ask at the end of these sessions from the people who are attending, not presenting, but just coming and joining to attend today. Did you get any ideas from today? Is there anything that sparked something inside you that you're going to take away and do something with? Feel free to unmute if you'd like. I can see you writing stuff down, John. I can see you coming up with things there you're going to try.
I've got a whole list of things to talk to staff with and introduce them to.
Tell us one.
Well, there was one from everyone. I really like the game of the Lost City. And
and sort of made me also think of how you could also do the use your own adventure type style slide deck. That would be really good.
Yeah, Google Forms is a great way to start that off as well.
Yeah.
With sending them to different branches of the form, and then
Cool.
I'll just show you this quickly. See, we've got a couple of minutes. You guys probably are familiar, or you might remember a thing called Breakout EDU.
Yep.
And I actually happen to have one here. This is a breakout kit, right? And basically, it's like an escape room, but instead of getting kids to break out of a room, you get them to break into a locked box. So you can see I've got this. I'm setting one up at the moment. I've been teaching the book, The Telltale Heart, for English. So I'm writing this whole adventure, and basically just assemble this so you can see what I'm talking about. Like there's a what's called a hasp lock, and it's got a whole bunch of padlocks and locks on it, and each one of those locks there's a clue to open the lock. So it might be a word or a set of colors or a number combination or something, or they have to find something in the classroom, and eventually they open their way through all the locks until they break into the box where there's something waiting for them. I haven't finished making it yet, but maybe I'll tell you about that next time.
I did a similar thing back with my year 7s for ecosystems. It was end of term, but I just used Google Sites and changed the stem for each of the sites to be the code that they've figured out from the puzzle beforehand. So there were things like find a words, and the letters that were left were the end of the site, and then they had to do a series of maths numbers and then work out what the final number was, and then that was so similar kind of thing. But if you don't have access to all those locks and things, you can still do it interactively.
Yeah. I set up one time, and it had the students had to get to a point where they email to someone, and I'd set up an email address which had an autoresponder on it that instantly sent them the email back with the next clue. So there's lots of cool things you can do if you just get a bit creative. And I know we've got lots of creative teachers in this room right now. I think that kind of wraps us up, unless someone else has got something else I'd like to add.
No, Mary, you do not have to live in Sydney to be part of GT Sydney. New South Wales-ish, really. So even and beyond, we've got New Zealand.
Anusha's here from New Zealand, so
yeah, we got New Zealand,
Bali,
Sydney, Canberra,
we've got
Bali.
Yes,
we've gone global. That's right. 2 from New Zealand. Very exciting.
Everyone is always welcome. Yeah, why not share the love or share the awesome ideas?
All right. Well, on that note, we do have a couple of things coming up. So GG Canberra is running a thing. And whenever we run these things, we open it up to Canberra and Sydney and anyone who wants to attend, Mary. So you're always welcome. So we've got one coming up that Canberra's running called Using Google Tools for Assessment. We'll be looking at just different ways you can assess with the tools. And then Sydney has one coming up on October 27. Tell us about that one, Claire.
Yeah, so our theme so we did science for our theme for term 3. We wanted to do exploring multimodality with creativity, technology, and literacy for our term 4 one, sorry. And I've thought of Canva that we might we've got Joe from Canva that's going to jump on and share with us as well, because Canva integrates beautifully with Google Classroom and a lot of Google tools. So we're going to explore a bit of Canva, but also share all the wonderful other ways we can use creative tools in Google for literacy as well.
Yep. And I think we are trying to, Kelly, Claire and I, we've had lots of discussions about it. We're trying to find ways to expand the creative use of technology in classrooms. And obviously Google plays a big part of that, but it doesn't have to always be Google. There's lots of great tools out there. I'm currently trying to negotiate with the National Archives of Australia to do an actual visit to the archives one afternoon and get them to talk us through some of the digital resources that they've got available. So there's lots of cool stuff coming up. So stay tuned. If you aren't already, make sure you're subscribed to our mailing list. So if you head over to the GEG Sydney website at gegsydney.com, or if you're in Canberra, you can go to ggcanberra.com, and there's a button there to sort of register, and we'll just add your name to the mailing list to make sure you get all the notifications. It's always a good idea to check your junk mail filters, because often group emails like that tend to go to spam sometimes. So make sure you've cleared us so you get the things. And please let people know. I think what goes on in these GG groups is really relevant to a lot of teachers, and I think a lot of teachers would find value. Hopefully you agree with me. So, you know, tell a friend, and let's see if we can get more people turning up next time. We will make sure all the recording and everything from today goes up on the website, and of course you can browse back through previous ones as well. We're trying to archive it all so everything's kept. Anything I've forgotten, Claire?
No, that's it. But yeah, follow. I think that's slide. Follow us on all of the things. So try to keep up, like, yeah, Chris shares all of our recordings on YouTube. I like to keep up to date on it. We've got a Facebook page, an Instagram page, a TikTok, LinkedIn as well. I don't really use the Blue Sky one. Chris, I think, set that one up, but yeah. But yeah, we've got usually when we've got a webinar coming up, we'll share a little flyer and a little spiel about it, and you'll get the email about it as well. So yeah. And
Blue Sky was like, oh, you take that, Elon Musk. I won't be there on X anymore. I'll be on Blue Sky. And LinkedIn, we have a LinkedIn profile, although as a gentleman in Bali pointed out to me recently, it's doing a weird thing with the logo that we haven't yet figured out yet. Shows a generic logo. We need to sort that out. Haven't forgotten about it, John. Just haven't got to it. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll say thank you on behalf of the team, and thanks for joining us today. And thank you to our guest presenters today. I think it's much more interesting when we get a diverse set of voices and you're hearing from lots of different people. So thank you, Gabor, Anusha, and Rachel.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. It was just so awesome to see, and that's just such a small snapshot of the wonderful work going on in people's classrooms in their schools, and very inspiring. So, and thank you to the wonderful participants for your lovely kind words as well. It means a lot, and yeah, we love doing this stuff. So thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. We're wrapping up right on time. So we'll see you next time.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bye.